I watched my ex coach his new girlfriend to laugh like me under live studio lights. He called it character work. I called it theft. He thought he could wear my voice and build a career out of it. He forgot I still had the original. The studio lights were blinding, but not as sharp as the fake smile she wore, my smile, rehearsed to perfection. She tilted her head the exact way I used to, down to the subtle smirk I did when I disagreed with someone but didn't want to argue. I was backstage, frozen, holding a curling wand I wasn't even using anymore. The monitor in front of me flickered. She laughed, and I swear to God, it was my laugh. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Erin. I'm 27 years old. And this is what really happened. I hadn't seen Trent in 6 months. Not since he walked out of our Brooklyn apartment with a gym bag and a smug little shrug. "I just need someone less intense," he'd said. Funny. I wasn't intense when I helped him cut together his first demo reel on iMovie. Back then, he didn't know how to hold a DSLR steady. I taught him that. And now, here he was. Studio badge, headset, his own segment producer credit, acting like he built the damn network. I was freelancing for Studio 14 that week. Makeup and hair rotation. Nothing fancy. I took it to fill rent. My lease had gone up. Gowanus prices didn't wait for heartbreak. I was assigned to Courtney, a rising influencer getting her first shot on daytime TV. I didn't connect the dots until she walked into the green room with a pink Stanley cup, and the same one he used to refill for me every morning. She even used the same chapstick, Mint Burst, from CVS. At first, I thought I was projecting. Breakups make you paranoid, right? You think everyone looks like them, talks like them. But then I saw the cue cards, and that's when my hands started shaking. One said, "Talk about the time you chased a thief barefoot." Another, use phrase, "Well, I'm not exactly tame." My stomach dropped. Those weren't just stories. They were my stories. Trent and I had once gotten mugged on Myrtle Avenue. I ran after the guy in flip-flops. He joked for months that it was the craziest, hottest thing he'd ever seen. And that phrase, "not exactly tame"? That's what I said during our first fight when he tried to tell me to act more ladylike at a friend's dinner. He'd laughed, and he said it should be my brand. Apparently, now it was, just on someone else. I didn't breathe for the next 5 minutes. Courtney sat in the makeup chair, scrolling through TikTok, practicing lines under her breath. I stood behind her, curling her hair, each loop tighter than the last. She caught my eye in the mirror. "Can we do it like this?" she asked, flipping to a saved video of me. One of the last clips Trent had posted before the breakup. I was in a red bandana, grinning at the camera, saying, "Let's stir some chaos, shall we?" Me. "That's an older look." Courtney. "He says it's signature, like core to the character." Character. I nodded, stepped back, and left the wand heating on the tray. In the hallway, I bumped into Sam, the assistant floor manager. "Erin, hey, you good?" "Oh, Trent said you had a migraine." Of course he did. Couldn't risk me being alert. I slipped into the shadows behind the side curtain of Stage C, where they were prepping the final segment. Courtney stepped into the light, greeted by applause. She walked like me, sat like me, even held the coffee mug with 2 hands, pinkies loose. It was like watching my personality puppeteered. Trent stood to the side, arms folded, giving subtle nods. She threw in the laugh again. The one he used to say sounded like wind chimes. And then came the question. Host. "Courtney, your fans say you're bringing something totally new to the daytime scene. What would you call your vibe?" Courtney, smiling. "Kind of chaotic neutral meets NPR. I'm not exactly tame." I blinked. The audience laughed, and Trent looked straight at me, just for a second. No smile. No, just a warning. Like he knew I'd be there. Like this was the final punch. I left the set in silence. My phone buzzed with notifications. Courtney's appearance was already trending. I passed a monitor in the hallway. The segment was looping on replay. She winked at the camera, with my wink. A production intern bumped into me near the staff exit. "Hey, that girl's like, kinda your clone, huh?" I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because something in me had already shifted. I wasn't just angry. I was clear. He'd taken my stories, my phrases, my facial expressions, and turned them into a performance. What he didn't know was that I'd kept everything. Backups, screenshots, recordings, even that voicemail he left the night before his pitch meeting, begging me to let him use a few of our bits to get the room laughing. I told him I'd think about it. Then he ghosted me for 5 weeks. The subway ride home felt like a full-body echo. Everything around me was too loud, too bright, too much. A man was watching the Courtney clip on his phone. I saw it upside down, but still caught the phrase, "not exactly tame," in closed captions. He chuckled. I got off one stop early. My apartment smelled like burnt lavender and stale popcorn. I hadn't been home in 12 hours, but somehow the air still held on to regret. My cat Midge meowed once and retreated under the couch. Even she could sense something had shifted. I dropped my tote by the door, slid to the floor with my back against the fridge, and whispered, "He's building a woman out of my ghost." 3 days later, I tried to confront him. I texted, "Me, we need to talk. I saw the segment." He read it, didn't reply. So I tried again. "Me, Trent, you're crossing into legal territory. I'm not bluffing." This time he texted back, "Trent, I'm not sure what you think you saw, but I'd appreciate it if you kept things professional." Professional. Like the time he called me his emotional co-producer when he landed that digital series deal. Professional. Like when he borrowed my therapy anecdotes to open his TEDx audition reel. I didn't respond, not because I was scared, because I was calculating. That night, I pulled out the shoebox, the one I kept at the back of my closet, under my tax folders and old skincare empties. And inside were 3 things: a flash drive labeled T+E, a broken silver pendant from our first anniversary, a folded receipt from Fulton County Clerk, case number 2-022-51708. The flash drive had recordings. Rough voice memos from the early days when we'd brainstorm at 1 a.m. with Trader Joe's wine and bad lighting. Ideas, scripts, jokes, rants, me, animated and unfiltered. Him laughing. "God, you're gold," he'd say. "You're like content just walking around." I spent 4 hours listening to those files, and I made notes, timestamps, exact lines. Every moment where my voice became his pitch. There was one in particular dated July 12, 2021, where I told a story about the mugging. I even said, "I should use that in a monologue someday." He'd replied, "Or we could save it for something bigger." Something bigger, like a talk show. Like a career. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called my friend Jess. She's a copyright consultant for indie creators. Me. Hypothetically, if someone took my stories and turned them into a brand, what would I need to prove it? Jess. Hypothetically? Me. Very. Jess. You'd need dates, audio, text threads, and any sign they had access to your material. I opened my laptop and started building a folder. For the next week, I operated in silence, worked my day jobs, smiled politely, but every night I added more to the archive. Emails, shared Google Docs, screenshots of Trent praising my storytelling vibe. Even an old Venmo note. Trent paid you $75 for ghostwriting magic. It wasn't enough for court yet, but it was more than enough for curiosity. The final straw came 2 weeks later. Now I was picking up a prescription at CVS. The pharmacy tech looked at me for a beat too long. Her. "You ever get told you look like that girl on Channel 9? Me. "No." Her. "She's cute. Real, chaotic NPR energy." I smiled, paid, and walked out with a burning sense of déjà vu. That night, I sat at my tiny kitchen table with 3 tabs open. A press release for Courtney's new mini-series pilot, my old notes from a short film idea called Tame This a Draft emailed to a journalist at The Cut. The subject line read, "Influencer steals persona from X's ex with help from rising producer." I didn't send it. Not yet. It was too soon. This wasn't about scandal. This was about precision. 2 days later, I got an unexpected call. It was Lila. We hadn't spoken in over a year. She used to intern at Trent's studio. Lila. Hey, yet you free to talk off record? Me. Depends what it's about. Lila. Let's just say, Courtney's not the only one he's coached into being you. I stared at my reflection in the toaster oven. Me. I'm listening? We met at a diner off Atlantic Avenue. She wore sunglasses inside. Dramatic, but not unjustified. Lila. He used your voice to pitch a show concept. Internal deck called it the Chaos Core. Guess who's the blueprint? Me. Let me guess. Me, but hotter. Lila. You, but sanitized, like a Whole Foods version of your actual vibe. She showed me a folder on her phone. Deck slides, email chains, mood boards with my face blurred just enough to look like someone else. One slide had a direct quote. The protagonist is unpredictable, funny, and carries this wild but soft energy. It was a line I had once written in my journal. Trent had read it, out loud, while I made pasta. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I got to work. The clip hit 2.3 million views overnight. Courtney's segment from the show, my stories, my tone, my damn smirk, now lived permanently on TikTok's For You page. Someone had auto-tuned her not exactly tame line into a remix. I woke up to it blaring from a passing car outside my window. Brooklyn irony. Or maybe karma with a speaker system. I stepped into my local coffee shop like usual. The barista glanced at me, then back at her iPad. Hey, she said slowly. Random, but you ever get told you look like Courtney Lee? I smiled like it didn't sting. Me. Just a few times lately. Her. It's crazy, right? Even the way you talk. She handed me my latte. On the cup, she'd written, Courtney 2.0. I walked out, and I didn't sip it. When you start losing your identity piece by piece, it doesn't always feel dramatic. It's not fireworks or meltdowns. It's small humiliations, little thefts that add up. A captioned photo of Courtney with her head tilted left, my signature pose. An interview where she talked about loving late-night walks through chaotic neighborhoods. My exact quote from our old couple's blog. A throwaway joke she told on air about putting chili flakes in cereal, which wasn't a joke. That was something I did once on a dare at a college house party. Trent had filmed it. That night, I took a break from evidence gathering. I needed something else. So I did what desperate people do. I Googled myself, not my name. My words. So not exactly tame, plus walk through chaotic neighborhoods, plus barefoot chase NYC. The results made my stomach turn. Blog posts, fan tweets, Reddit threads. And buried in one comment section, someone wrote, her vibe reminds me of this chick I followed years ago. Erin something? She had a blog, anyone know? That was me. Before I scrubbed it all. Before I tried to disappear. Before Trent told me it was better if he handled public-facing stuff. Back when we were dating, I used to run a small content channel. Micro, really. Just a few hundred subscribers, sketches, spoken word, commentary. Nothing polished. Just me. But Trent said I was too raw. Too many opinions. He convinced me to go dark online while he built his brand. Said we'd relaunch together. Spoiler, we never did. He launched alone, with my material. So yeah, and I spiraled. I stayed up all night watching side-by-side clips. My old archived Instagram lives versus Courtney's quirky confessionals. She mimicked everything. Even the way I nervously pushed my hair behind one ear when I got emotional. Except it wasn't nerves. It was a tic I developed after my dad died. And now it was content. Marketable grief. By the next morning, I couldn't do it alone anymore. I messaged Jess, me, if I wanted to make this public, not legally, but loudly, how risky? Jess, gray zone. You can't defame if it's all true. Just don't name names until you're sure they can't prove it's theirs. Me, what if I don't need names? Just receipts. Jess, then drop them like breadcrumbs. So I opened a new TikTok account, burner style. No face, no name. First post, a clip of a girl, me, and blurred. saying, "Not exactly tame in 2021." Second post, Courtney saying the same thing on daytime TV, same cadence, same delivery. Third post, side-by-side collage of Trent's old comments calling me his chaos muse. I didn't hashtag it, didn't share it, just let it float, and within 48 hours it started to pull. Reddit picked it up first, then a pop culture Twitter thread. Someone posted, "Wait, did this chick literally build her brand off someone else's personality?" Then another reply, "Nah, this is creepy. It's not even inspired by, it's carbon copy vibes." My favorite comment? "I swear men will download your soul and then gaslight you when you ask for a charger." Meanwhile, Trent stayed quiet. No tweets, no statements. But I knew him. Silence meant panic. He was calling lawyers, PR reps, maybe even Courtney's team. Still, the best part? Courtney stopped posting. No more behind-the-scenes clips, no new TikToks. Her latest IG story was a black screen with 3 dots. Then came the email from Maya Rosenthal, a writer at The Verge. Subject, "Interested in talking? Off record if you prefer." I stared at it for a long time, then clicked reply. Me, "Can I ask what angle you're looking at?" Maya, "Digital identity, creator ethics, also weirdly specific personality theft." Me, "Off record first." Maya, "Of course." We met at a coffee shop in Park Slope. I wore sunglasses this time. Learned from Lila. Maya, "How much do you want to say?" Me, "Not everything, just enough to make sure he doesn't win." I gave her the dates, the receipts, the timeline. She cross-referenced everything. And even found an old video of Trent on a panel talking about the art of character curation. He said, "Sometimes your best content is the person closest to you." That line made her jaw clench. Maya, "He said that while dating you?" Me, "He said that because he was dating me." The article wasn't published yet, but the tension in the air was different. Trent knew something was coming. I could tell by how fast he started cleaning up his digital trail. Deleted posts, edited captions, even pulled old videos from his YouTube channel. Too late. I had already downloaded them all. And I wasn't done yet. The next time I saw Trent in person, it was almost surreal. He looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the weight of exposure settling into his shoulders, or maybe I'd just grown past the version of him I used to shrink for. It was at a pop-up networking mixer hosted by the same studio that aired Courtney's segment. I hadn't planned on going, but Maya's article was scheduled to drop in 3 days. I needed one last piece before the flood came in, a face-to-face, a read on his panic. The venue was sterile and slick, all chrome bar stools and cucumber gin. Everyone smelled like ambition and overpriced cologne. I wore a thrifted blazer 2 sizes too big. No makeup. He saw me before I spoke. He was mid-conversation with some exec, but his smile cracked when I walked up. Me, "Didn't think you'd show your face this week." Trent, "Aaron, wow. Bold of you to come." Me, "You really want to talk about bold?" He tried to laugh, but it stuck in his throat. His eyes darted around the room. Trent, "Look, this whole internet thing, it's exaggerated." Me, "Is it?" Trent, "People are reading too far into jokes and coincidences. That's not illegal." Me, "No, Trent, it's not illegal. It's just desperate. And very, very public." He lowered his voice. Trent, "You're trying to ruin me." I sipped my drink. Me, "I'm not trying. You're doing great, all on your own." Then I pulled the flash drive out of my pocket, the one with the July 12th voice memo. I didn't hand it to him. I just showed it. Me, "You should really get ahead of the article. Maya's thorough. She found the pitch deck." His face went pale. Trent, "She's bluffing." Me, "So was I. Now, not so much." That night, I went home and opened my notes app. I started a new folder called Archive Dive. Because if I wanted to finish this, I had to do it clean. No rants, no chaos, just facts. And I logged into our old shared Google Drive. He hadn't changed the password. Classic Trent. Lazy when he thought he'd already won. There it was, a folder named Chaos Muse Assets. I clicked. Inside were clips of me, old voice memos labeled with my name, a document titled Courtney Adaptation Beats. I opened it. Each bullet point was a direct lift from things I'd said, done, or created. Every segment matched one of my old stories. But one line stood out. Must preserve Aaron's vulnerability tone. Audiences crave rawness wrapped in polish. He'd dissected me, like I was a formula, a template. I sat back and breathed. I wasn't angry anymore. I was surgical. This wasn't about heartbreak. This was about ownership. The next morning I emailed Maya. Me. Final piece attached. Use it wisely. An hour later, she replied, Yes, Maya. This changes the angle. It's bigger than identity theft. It's media ethics, creator exploitation, launching Sunday. I sent one more message. To Courtney. Me. Just so you know, he's used this script before. You're not the first. You're just the one on camera. She didn't reply, but 2 hours later, she unfollowed Trent and archived every post tagged with his name. I kept watching the numbers climb. Views, shares, screenshots. Everyone had an opinion. Some defended Courtney, some defended me, but most just watched. And that was enough, because exposure wasn't the weapon. Attention was, and now it was shifting. I took one final step. I booked a notarized copyright application through the New York County Clerk's Office, case number 2024-17823, and filed under Original Creative Expressions, Character Persona plus Vocal Identity Framework. It wouldn't win in federal court, but it would make one hell of a footnote in a journalist's follow-up, and it gave me what I needed, a timestamp, a stake in the ground. That night, I walked through my neighborhood, no earbuds, just wind and sirens and thoughts. I passed a mural of Frida Kahlo. Someone had spray-painted beneath it. Steal my style, but you'll never steal my scars. I smiled, for real this time, because I wasn't hiding anymore. And neither was the truth. They say sound doesn't lie. And that night, it didn't. I stood in the dark corner of Studio B, behind a rolling rack of wardrobe changes and a dangling boom mic, and I recorded everything. It was supposed to be Courtney's final rehearsal before her pilot taping. The studio had already greenlit the teaser, and Trent? He was directing it like a man obsessed with polishing glass that didn't belong to him. I watched from the shadows, my phone tucked under my jacket, camera rolling. His voice echoed clear. Courtney, no. Don't blink there. Aaron used to lean in after punchlines. Try that. She hesitated. Courtney, you mean like this? Trent, exactly. Perfect. And toss your hair after. Aaron did it when she was playing vulnerable. I didn't flinch, just kept recording. Every syllable made the fire in my spine burn brighter. When she stumbled through a line, Trent paused everything. Trent, remember, you're not just saying it, you're being her. That's the magic. That's when it clicked. She wasn't just a character. She was a replica. A second draft of me, edited for mass consumption. He handed her a notebook. I recognized it. Tan leather cover, gold elastic band. The journal I'd left at his apartment the week we broke up. He'd kept it, stolen it. And now it was a prop in her persona research. Courtney flipped through a page. She read a line out loud. Courtney, when I'm scared, I make jokes with too much edge because I don't know how to be soft. Trent, that one's a gem. Use it for your confessional segment. My knees buckled. That wasn't a line. That was my journal. I had written that after my mother's surgery. He took that moment, one of the rawest things I'd ever written, and turned it into dialogue. I stepped outside before the taste of bile hit my tongue. The air smelled like old asphalt and takeout. I walked 2 blocks to a 24-hour bodega and bought gum I didn't need. Then I walked back in like nothing happened. I had the footage. The journal in Courtney's hand, his voice naming me. That night I clipped the audio, clean under 90 seconds. Then I paired it with a soft, blurred, slow zoom of Courtney laughing on screen, my laugh, no tags, no names, caption. If you're gonna coach someone into being your ex, maybe don't do it near a hot mic. Posted it, burner account, let it breathe. Within 6 hours, it had 500,000 views. 12 hours, 1.2 million. Comments exploded. Hot mic karma. This is beyond creepy. She's not an actress. She's a placeholder. And then, wait, is that Trent Merrick's voice? The internet figured it out faster than I expected. The sleuths linked studio schedules, previous clips, and match-cut Courtney's expressions with my archived content. The buzz turned into suspicion. Suspicion turned into pressure. By the end of the week, Courtney canceled the pilot taping. No public reason, just creative pause. But I knew, and Trent definitely knew. I got a call from a blocked number, voicemail, his voice tight with panic. Trent, what the hell are you doing? You want to ruin both of us? This isn't justice, it's revenge. Call me back. I
Saved it, labeled it, spin attempt number 1. Then came the email. From Dana Ford, the VP of Development at the network. Subject, private request for conversation. I opened it slowly. We'd appreciate a chance to clarify some of the confusion surrounding recent allegations. If you're open to meeting, I believe there may be an opportunity for resolution, and perhaps collaboration. Translation? They knew they were bleeding.
And I smelled corporate fear. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I opened my closet and pulled out the red silk dress I wore in that old clip, the one Courtney tried to recreate. I'd wear it again, on my terms. I sent my reply the next morning. Me. I'll meet, but I'm not pitching anything, I'm listening. They set the meeting for the following week. In the meantime, I had more work to do. The next drop wasn't going to be quiet. It would be surgical. And this time, the mic would be on purpose. The lobby of the network building was colder than I remembered. Marble floors, sterile lighting, and a receptionist who smiled like she was trained not to blink. I checked in under my full name. No badge, no alias, no fear. This time, they were the ones sweating, not me. Dana Ford greeted me like we were old friends, polished. I'm perfumed, probably rehearsed. Dana. Erin, thank you so much for coming in. Me. Let's skip the fluff. I have 30 minutes. She blinked once, led me into a glass-walled conference room with bottled water lined like soldiers. Inside sat 2 others, a man in a blazer too tight for his neck, and a woman typing before I even sat down. Legal and PR. They weren't here to hear me out. They were here to manage me. Dana. We're aware of the noise online and the unfortunate connections people are making. Me. You mean the accurate ones? She chuckled like she wasn't cornered. Dana. We believe in honoring originality, of course, which is why we'd like to offer you an opportunity. The man slid a folder across the table. I didn't open it. Dana. A consulting position, creative guidance for future programming. Yet your fingerprints on it officially. Me. You mean hush money? Dana. We see it as recognition, with benefits. I leaned forward. Me. I have no interest in being quietly credited while someone else wears my skin on screen. The PR woman stopped typing. Me. You let a man pitch a woman he broke. You aired a persona built on my grief, my humor, my trauma. Now you want to give me a title and hope I go away? Dana folded her hands. Dana. What would you prefer? I smiled. Me. A mic. That night I booked a studio session. A friend of mine worked freelance audio gigs. I told her I wanted to record something simple, clean audio. No edits, no cuts, just me, my voice, my side. I called the episode Unwritten, How It Feels to Be Performed Without Permission. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. And I read my journal entry from the night of my mother's surgery, the same one Courtney read aloud like a monologue. I described the first time Trent called me a brand. The night he told me I was too raw for public, but perfect for packaging. I talked about how identity is more than phrases and poses. Its origin, its context, its cost. I uploaded the audio to a burner podcast channel. No ads, no intro music, just one episode. It spread faster than I expected, because women recognize the theft. Creators recognize the violation. 2 days later, #unwritten started trending. People stitched the audio with their own stories, photos of stolen art, clips of copied content, memes, but one stood out. A side-by-side of Courtney crying in a podcast interview, talking about being misunderstood. Next to my voice, my steady and calm. They didn't want me. They wanted my outline. Courtney DM'd me that night. Courtney: I didn't know it went that deep. I thought it was just character work. Me: he used you like he used me. Courtney: I archived the pilot. I told them I'm not doing it. She wasn't the villain. She was the costume. I didn't forgive her, but I didn't hate her either. She stepped out of the story and left Trent exposed. That same week, Maya published the follow-up. Headline: When Personality Becomes Intellectual Property, The Ethics of Identity in Modern Media. She used everything: the journal excerpts, the audio logs, the mic clip, and she linked my podcast. Traffic exploded. Trent tried to post a defense, one of those black screen statements with white text and fake humility, but the internet wasn't buying it anymore. And he lost a brand deal the next day. His segment got pulled from the network's spring lineup. By Friday, his name was trending again, this time under #PersonaPirate. And me? I was just getting started. A talent agent reached out, said she'd heard the episode, asked if I had more stories, more voice, more me. I told her, I've been writing this script my whole life. I just didn't realize it until someone else tried to perform it. The studio lights used to blind me. Now I faced them head on. The studio had gone quiet, not physically. There were still interns scrambling, camera shutters clicking, lattes foaming in the green room. But the buzz was gone, the kind that clung to Trent like cologne. He used to be the name that turned heads in hallways. Now people whispered it like a rumor they didn't want traced back to them. And I hadn't seen him since the podcast dropped, but I knew where he'd be. Trent was predictable in a way only narcissists could be. He'd show up when there was just enough fire to make himself the victim. So when I heard he was doing a panel at Brooklyn Creators Week, I bought a ticket. Not to shout, not to sabotage, to witness. The event was held in an old converted warehouse. Exposed brick, twinkle lights, folding chairs packed shoulder to shoulder with TikTok faces and micro-celebs trying to look casual. The panel title was laughable: Authenticity in the Age of Influence. Trent sat center stage, beige sweater, clean-shaven, a little too polished for a guy who claimed to thrive in chaos. He opened with a joke about how online drama was part of the job, about how he respected the stories that inspire. The room clapped, but not everyone. 2 rows ahead of me, someone whispered, "That's the guy who copied his ex, right?" Another voice, "Yeah, he stole her trauma and called it a brand." He heard it. His eye twitched. I stayed after the panel. He didn't see me until the crowd thinned. When he did, his face dropped. Not in fear, in calculation. Trent: "So now you're following me?" Me: "No, I'm here to see what version of me you're playing this week." He tried to scoff, but his voice cracked. Trent: "I didn't think it would go this far. You wanted exposure, didn't you?" Me: "I wanted credit, not plagiarism." Trent: "I made you relevant." That line hung in the air, so loud it felt physical. I stepped closer. Me: "No, Trent, you made me hungry. You took pieces of me and thought you could build a career out of scraps. But you forgot something important. I own the source material." I left before he could speak again. Didn't give him the stage. That night, I opened a new file. Not evidence, not a takedown, a script. The agent who'd reached out after the podcast, Chloe, had asked if I'd ever thought about writing my story for screen. I told her yes, just not the version Trent tried to sell. She connected me with a showrunner, Miriam Lane, who'd built her career on complicated, loud, brilliant women. Miriam called me directly. "Miriam, what do you want the heart of the show to be?" Me: "Not revenge, not fame. I want it to be about reclamation." Over the next 3 weeks, we met every night on Zoom, plotting, writing, turning pain into structure. We named the show Unwritten, a docu-fiction hybrid that blurred truth and performance. But this time, on my terms. Meanwhile, Courtney dropped her first statement, a Notes app post. I didn't realize I was stepping into someone else's skin. I'm stepping back from acting to rebuild who I am off camera. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and it mattered. Trent, on the other hand, tried to launch a YouTube series called Content is Chaos. First episode, 2,100 views, dislikes hidden, comments disabled. Second episode never aired. Maya's third article was brutal. She traced the entire arc, from the first borrowed phrase to the mic drop to the fallout. She ended it with a quote from our first interview. When people try to wear you like a costume, make sure the seams are visible. Let them rip it open and remind them it never fit right in the first place. A month later, I signed the final deal. Executive producer credit. And creative control, and a clause protecting personal narrative rights. My lawyer called it the Aaron Clause. I framed it. The pilot was greenlit for development, and the morning we announced it publicly, I got a text from an unknown number. Trent. Congrats, I always knew you were the star. I blocked it, didn't respond, because this story didn't need him anymore. My favorite quote lives on a post-it above my desk now, from Frida again. Nothing is absolute. Everything changes, everything moves, everything revolves, everything flies and goes away. Except truth. Truth stays, even when people try to perform it. The red carpet was smaller than I expected. Less Hollywood, more curated chaos. The kind of event where everyone knows the photographers' names and spontaneous moments are blocked out in rehearsal schedules. Still, I walked it, on my own terms. It was the Winter Spotlight Gala, a soft industry event for emerging creatives with cultural edge. Chloe said it was important for visibility. Miriam said it would be good PR. I said I'd go if I could choose the dress. They said, of course. I wore the navy slip Trent once said made me look too real. The one he made me change out of before our first studio mixer. Said it was too much story in one outfit. Exactly. The moment I stepped onto the carpet, cameras flashed. But not because of me. Because of the necklace. A tarnished silver pendant, cracked down the center, held together by a barely visible solder line. It was the same one Trent had given me on our first anniversary, and the same one he'd pretended to lose. I found it a year later, tucked into a props drawer on set. He was using it as a character detail for a short film, not a gift, a symbol. Now, it was my message, loud, subtle, devastating. Every outlet picked it up. Aaron Lee's broken pendant sparked speculation. Was that the necklace? Yes, it was. Inside, I moved through the room like a story already written. People didn't just smile. They paused, waited eye contact, soft nods, no more, you remind me of, just, it's good to finally meet you. Near the champagne bar, I spotted Lila, still sharp, still fierce. She held up her glass, Lila. From backstage ghost to headliner, not bad, me. Better lighting on this side. She leaned in. Lila. Word is Trent tried to sell a pitch last week. Something about the emotional aftermath of digital betrayal. I laughed. Me. Was it rejected? Lila. Didn't even make it past the log line. Later that night, a journalist from Indie Current pulled me aside. Journalist. If you had to summarize the last year in one sentence, what would it be? I didn't even think. Me. I stopped letting other people rehearse me. The gala ended with a slideshow of upcoming creator-led projects. Unwritten was last, just a teaser image, no faces, no names, just a quote. She was never too much. They were just never enough to hold her. Applause, real, earned, uncoached. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A new message from Miriam. Miriam. Pilot's locked. You should see the final cut. I think it might wreck you, in a good way. She attached a screenshot from the final scene. A woman sitting alone on a rooftop, journal in her lap, mic in her hand. No audience. It just voice. I got home that night and placed the pendant on my desk. Next to it, I laid out the last page of my original journal, the one Trent had copied. There was still one blank line left. I picked up my pen and wrote, "This version of me is unscripted, and she's not going anywhere." It was supposed to be a quiet Thursday, But no one at the network was quiet anymore. The hallway buzzed with clipped conversations and quick footsteps. Producers with eyes wide like open secrets. Interns whispering over clipboards because someone had leaked the episode, the one they never meant to air. The pilot, not my pilot, Trent's, the one built from the imitation, the mimicry, the mold of me he sculpted and handed to someone else. I was mid-lunch when I got the text. Jess, check Reddit, thread going viral. Oh, looks like a rough cut got out. I opened it. There it was. Courtney under brighter lights than she'd ever asked for, wearing my necklace, reciting my exact childhood memory, word for word. She even said my grandmother's name. The comments were ruthless. This is plagiarism dressed as personality. So, she's just Erin Light? The AI-generated version of someone who actually lived the pain. And the worst one, this is what happens when men treat women like raw footage. That night, I got a call from Dana Ford. Same polished voice, less spin this time. Dana, we're pulling the entire project. It never happened, not officially. Me, too late for that, don't you think? Dana, look, Erin, we made a mistake. We're offering you the chance to shape what comes next. Me, you had your chance. Now it's mine. The next day, I was invited to sit on the forum, a weekly panel-style show, usually soft news, creative buzz. But this episode, they titled it, Who Owns a Story? Identity Theft in the Creator Economy. They asked me to join last minute. Someone had dropped out, probably Trent. I almost said no. But then I remembered how many girls had DM'd me since Unwritten dropped. Messages like, they said I was too much. He took my writing and published it under his name. Your story reminded me that I'm not imagining things. This wasn't just about me anymore. So I said yes, and I wore the red silk dress again, this time with the repaired necklace. On set, they seated me last, center. The host smiled like she knew the questions would sting. Host, Erin, in your words, when did you first realize you were being copied? I didn't blink. At me, the moment I recognized my own grief coming out of someone else's mouth. Gasps. Not dramatic ones, just enough silence to mark impact. Host, do you think it was intentional? Me, I think intention stopped mattering when consent was never part of the process. Another beat, another pivot. Host, and the network's role? Me, they loved the chaos until they realized it had receipts. Then came the final question. Host, what would you say to Trent if he were here? I turned to camera. Direct, clean. Me, I'm not your source code anymore, and next time you build a persona, try making it from scratch. After the taping, I stepped backstage. Chloe was waiting with 2 execs from a streaming platform. They offered me a mini-series deal, not just Unwritten. They wanted a follow-up, a limited docu-style show on Voice, at Identity and Erasure. I'd host, interview others like me, and tell the parts of my story I hadn't dared to write. Yet. That weekend, I flew to LA for a conference. Sat on a panel with creators I used to admire in silence. Now they looked at me like I was the headline, because I was. At the airport gate on the way back, a girl, maybe 19, approached me. She wore oversized glasses and a denim jacket covered in enamel pins. Girl, are you Erin from Unwritten? Me, yeah. Girl, I just wanted to say, thank you. I thought I was crazy, but you made me feel original again. She smiled and disappeared into the boarding line, and I sat down with tears in my throat, not from pain, from recognition. Because all this time, I thought the goal was revenge, but it wasn't. It was reclamation, of voice, of space, of self. And that's what I'd finally taken back. It's strange the way silence changes when it's earned. The quiet in my apartment no longer felt like aftermath. It felt like ownership, a kind of stillness that follows the final page. 3 months had passed since the last time Trent's name trended. The internet had moved on. Courtney had gone offline. And me? I was working, writing, speaking, living. The unwritten pilot aired to over 3.7 million streams in the first 48 hours, top of the algorithm, right beneath trending scandals and true crime dramas. But this wasn't crime, not in the legal sense. It was just truth, told loudly. And that made it louder than anything he ever built. The show opened with the line I'd written in my journal 2 years ago. She was never too much. They were just never enough to hold her. It closed with my voice, unfiltered, not overproduced, just me. Sitting at my own desk, flipping through my real notebook, not for the camera, for myself. I'd taken back my story, and in doing that, I'd given others permission to do the same. A ripple started. Other creators came forward. Stories about idea theft, creative control, digital identity loss, some small, some massive, all valid, all visible now. A week after Unwritten aired, I got an envelope in the mail, handwritten, no return address. Inside was the pendant, the original one, not the soldered one. He'd replaced it, or maybe found the second I didn't know existed. There was no note, just the necklace. An apology too late to speak, too quiet to matter. I placed it in a drawer I never opened. You let it sit with the things I no longer carry. The real pendant, the one I did wear, was now part of a museum exhibit. Personal echoes, artifacts of the creator generation. Mine sat next to a burned journal and a framed YouTube copyright takedown request. The plaque read, "Symbol of narrative recovery, reclaimed identity through resistance, not erasure." I went to see it once, late in the afternoon. No one noticed me standing there. I didn't need them to. Afterward, I stopped at a small bookshop down the street. A young woman was doing a reading in the back room. Poetry, raw, messy, unapologetic. She caught my eye after the last line. "Girl, wait, are you..." "Me. Yeah. Girl, I just want to say your story changed the way I tell mine." I smiled. "Me. Then I did what I came to do." A few days later, I was at a press event. Nothing fancy, just a panel for industry people in a Soho loft. Afterwards, as people packed up, my phone rang, unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something in me said, "Pick up, me." "Hello?" Voice. "Hi, this is Lydia from North Sound Productions. We've been following your work." Pause. Lydia. "We'd like to develop a long-form series around your platform, your writing, your voice, not your trauma, you. We want you now." And for the first time in a very long time, I said yes, without checking if I sounded too bold, too much, too loud, because I was never too much. They were just too small to carry me. So to the girl out there, the one being copied, silenced, erased, or reshaped, know this. You're not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're not making it up. You're just ahead of your time. And someone else noticed. But they can't wear your voice without choking on it. So speak. Speak until they can't hear anyone else. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.